Hardy is back, and this 50DS is the first new model it's launched since 2020 when Cockwells took over. And today we're going to take you from here in Ocean Village down the coast to Poole, a 25 nautical mile passage where we're going to test it, tour it, and speak to Dave Cockwell himself about the acquisition and what plans he has for this famous old brand. It may have the same name on the side, but this is Hardy as we've never seen it before. I'm Jack Haines, welcome to YachtBuyer. Proof, I don't just drive them, I can crew them, and actually it's a very handy exercise to crew a boat. You very quickly learn what works and what doesn't, and what you notice about this is the freeboard, how low we are to the pontoon when you're alongside, so you can do lines from the pontoon easily if you want to. If you look at other, like that Flybridge over there, that's probably about 50 feet, 54 feet. Look how high the side decks are compared to this. So if I'm on the pontoon, you're having to reach up to the cleats. Not an issue on this at all. It's quite a big step onto the side deck, but actually once you're on here, it's just a really gentle slope up to the bow. They're really wide, guardrails are good. And yeah, I mean, if you're handling this boat as two people, which most of the time this type of boat is likely to be handled that way, just makes life a lot safer and a lot easier. Talk about lazarettes a lot, but this is where lazarettes are very useful. Big fenders. There is an anchor locker which you can get a couple in. The longer passage, you want the fenders completely away, and then you have this really great space. It's all lined down there. You can see they've got some other kit down there, but plenty of space. If I drop in, to stow these fully out the way. Also got the Seakeeper down here as well. That's an option. Got a Seakeeper 6. But yeah, this is a really useful space. We've got deck chairs in here, cleaning gear, all that stuff. You've got somewhere really easy and spacious to put it all. There we go. I mentioned, there is a step, quite a big step up onto the side deck, but that does mean you feel safe here, well protected. And as I said, once you're on the deck, it drops down. You've got a big tow rail, open scuppers down there as well. So any water you take over the bow will clear off. It's a very practical design. This one was hiding. Anchor locker for this one. There you go, that's a decent space. It's not separated from the anchor chain, but to stick one in there quickly. We'll pull it out before we anchor, but right, now we're ready.
Yeah, I mean, the boat is an incredible sea boat, there's no doubt about it. And one of the main inspirations for this boat obviously was the Hardy 65, and for this owner that was a really big thing. I mean, he would have, in some ways he really fancied a 65, but that's quite a big step. It's big enough for a couple, and it's got all the seakeeping capabilities of the bigger boats. The owner spec'd this boat with larger engines, Volvo D13s, but only at 800 horsepower, so that he could maintain sort of near top speed all of the time. And he had the twin disc gearboxes fitted with trolling valve system. There's 2 hydraulic pumps, one on each engine, which drive hydraulic thrusters, hydraulic winch. The joystick can control the engines and thrusters.
Having had the technical rundown from Dave, it was my turn to get behind the wheel. Lovely and toasty inside this saloon, and it's been a good opportunity to learn what it's like to live on a slightly longer passage with the 50, but you can get a good feel for how a boat cruises when you do a slightly longer passage, and we've been sat at that 20 knot cruising speed pretty much the entire time. And when Dave told me about the engines, the slightly larger blocks that have been detuned, I was preparing myself for it to be a little bit noisy in here. They are just underneath the saloon floor there, but at this cruising speed you're looking at low to mid 70s when you're cruising along, which is perfectly comfortable. We've been chatting the whole time with probably someone standing in the galley, so you can talk very comfortably, and in fact the engines are not as loud as I thought they would be. They have done a good job of isolating them, and it's a very comfortable boat to drift along on. I mean, that is what you do. It just soaks up anything. I mean, we've not been challenged, as I've mentioned, but anything you do come across, wash or something from a ship, it just crosses over it as if it's not there. And I know from experience that it can do it in the rough stuff as well, even though today's been pretty easy. It's a great helm setup. Now, you'll often hear me complain about lots of items being digital, not having switches for things that you're going to use regularly, because you don't have things like switches on the dash for the windscreen wipers or the bilge pumps, but actually it's presented so well through the software here that it doesn't really matter. If you have it on this screen with the likes of the Seakeeper and the speed, this is almost your cruising screen, then you have a button for the wipers. You can turn the Seakeeper on and off really easily. You have your range, you have your anchor controls. So actually it works really well. And you've still got hard controls for things like the trim tabs. That all works fine. I would probably move this small Volvo screen down here up onto the main dash, because that's quite useful. That's got all of your engine information, which you can show through these screens, but it's quite nice to have one screen that is just dedicated to that. At the moment it's by my knee, which is hard to read. Up here, I think it would be a bit more useful. But this is a boat where you will while away the hours on longer passages, and it really does work very well in that capacity. When you're doing those harder yards, this is the helm station you're going to be at. You sit in the middle, the two of you sit side by side, you both have a great view, equally easy to use the controls from here. And actually for a boat where you are going to often put the autopilot on, sit back, everything is still really nice and close. You can adjust this seat's right back, but it can slide forward. So I could sit close to the helm and have the wheel and the throttles right under my hand, but nothing is too much of a stretch away. Got a charger there for my phone as well, so that can charge away while we're moving along. It's a thoroughly relaxing environment to cover the hard yards. With the 50DS effortlessly chewing up the miles towards Poole, Dave and I discussed how Cockwell's takeover of Hardy actually came about.
We inherited this boat when we bought the brand. Basically, one day I got a call from Andrew Wolstenholme, who is the naval architect behind Hardy. And he's also worked for us for many years. He did the Dutchies for us and some of our custom boats as well. He said that unfortunately Hardy got into trouble and a liquidator was in there. He suggested I should go and have a look. And they're not the same as our Dutchies. They're a different market in some respects, but have the very similar values. They're high quality British built boats. The brand had an extremely strong following, especially within the UK, but also abroad, very well known brand. The Hardy offers things that Dutchie doesn't, yet the customers that we speak to are similar, very, very similar customers. So I felt that the brand needed to be saved, and I had some what I thought were fairly good ideas on how the traditional Hardy could move forward and advance. We've got the traditional and in many ways famous hull shape. I mean, a hull that most people will acknowledge can go anywhere in anything. Hardy had good engineering, but not so much finesse. And I think what Cockwells have added to the Hardy brand is a little bit of finesse in the fitting out and modernisation, and a lot of technology. So the entire boat is controlled from the MFD, well, any one of the 4 MFDs, to be honest with you. Obviously, we've got light switches around the boat. They're basically digital inputs as opposed to actual switches. There are no fuses that can corrode and fail, or breakers. Everything is solid state. The units themselves can be submerged in water, completely waterproof. And obviously, because it's all digital, we can log in remotely and snag any problems that the owner might have, or change any settings that he wants setting. So the owner can access his boat from his phone. He can He can do all sorts of things. He can turn the fridges on, for example, turn the heating on before he arrives at the boat. He could spool up the seakeeper. He could shut the sunroof if he went home and left it open. You know, there's any number of things.
As Old Harry Rocks came into view, I braved the threat of rain to see what the 50DS was like to drive from the Upper Helm. And the handling came as a bit of a surprise. Right then, let's get up to speed, shall we? There's definitely plenty of grunt, there's no doubt about that. She does get up and into her stride very nicely. So nicely, in fact, you don't quite clock how fast you're going. That is now already 20 knots, and that is her cruising speed. She'll top out at 27 knots. You know, that's sort of what you'd expect for a semi-displacement boat of this size. But yeah, it's 20 knots here. This is where she lives. If you're going fast, if you drop the speed back sort of sub 10 knots, I imagine you're looking at 1,000 nautical miles of range. Yeah, in that region. But yeah, if you want to travel fast, and that is the lovely thing for me about this semi-displacement hull form. You have that really flexible performance where if you just want to cover ground, you're not in a rush, you want to, you know, not use a huge amount of fuel, you can do that, and the boat feels very comfortable both through its hull, it's stabilised through the seakeeper as well. But if you just want to get there, you can up the revs and you can travel at over 20 knots. So I think that's a really nice flexible amount of performance, and having to travel at 30 knots is not the be all and end all. Being able to use the boat while you're going along is really nice, and that's what you can do on this thing. What does come as a bit of a surprise is the handling. It's got power steering, and I tell you what, I can't think of many semi-displacement boats this size that are as agile as this. It's amazing. Not only the way it reacts to the wheel, so you turn and you quickly get a reaction. It is not ponderous and lazy. The other thing is how fast it turns round. Often these boats can take an age to turn back on themselves, but it's only a couple of turns lock to lock. It's actually remarkably good fun, and it's back heading the other way, which is so nice. Changes of direction are not a pain on this thing, and if you want to hand steer it through some waves, then you can do that. And equally, if there's something in the water ahead of you, you quickly need to make an adjustment. It does it really fast, which is really nice and certainly unexpected. The other thing is the controls are absolutely lovely. We've talked about how nice this kit is here from Twin Disc, but having like full metal throttles, the tops of the thrusters are metal, as is the joystick. It feels incredibly high quality, really big boat stuff, and it's all lovely to interact with. And you've got a very flexible helm position. For a boat that, you know, is going to go in a straight line a lot of the time, they've thought about being able to get to the helm. I've moved this seat forward so I can sit back and reach everything. It's really flexible, clean, easy to use. Most things contained in the MFD. It's a really nice driving environment. And actually I thought maybe the seat was a bit low. When I sat at this in the marina, I was like, oh, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to quite see the bow, but I can see the bow rails really easily, even seated. I've got a good clear view of the bow. So it's nice if you just want to sit back, stick the autopilot on and enjoy the ride and have a chat with your co-pilot. But you can engage with this boat if you want to, and that's a lovely, lovely surprise to me. I was expecting it to be a little bit more unwieldy than it is, when in reality, it reacts beautifully to the helm. But I think it is now beginning to rain, so let's continue this from downstairs, maybe after Dave's made us a nice coffee. Oh yes, nothing like a spring day in the UK, liquid sunshine all over the place. But we will not be deterred because we're going to commence the tour of the Hardy 50DS. We're going to start up here at the bow. It's a pretty simple arrangement. You can see you've got venting up here for the cabin below, so you can't even get some sunbathing cushions up here. If you want to sunbathe, you can do that up on the Flybridge, as we'll see in a moment. Now, what this is about, as we discussed when I was coming out of Ocean Village, is ease of movement when you're mooring. Storage for fenders, huge bollards on either side, big fairleads, access to the anchors, lovely big high guardrails, and of course you can see the flare of the bow, high tow rails as well. It's a very safe and easy boat to move around on. Symmetrical decks as well, so it's just as easy whichever side of the boat you choose to move, plus you have side doors on both sides. So again, very easy to get in and out of the main saloon from these decks here. But I think we should go back to the cockpit now and get a bit of shelter. And this is why this type of design is so good, because you can fully enclose this area. Obviously we've not done that today, but if you wanted to use this despite weather like we've got, you could do that, and you can heat it, of course, open the doors, and this all becomes part of the saloon in there. And this is also where we start to see the first of the Cockwells touches. They know a thing or two about woodwork down there in Falmouth, and this cockpit table is a perfect demonstration of that. Beautiful to look at, practical as well with the nice fiddled edging. It unveils cup holders and guardrails as well, but of course it opens up, and the practicality doesn't stop there, because there is storage underneath all of this seating and under the little bench over there. And talking of practicality, there's a couple of options with the tender on this boat. This has got a tender launch system with a fixed platform, but as an option you can have a hydraulic platform which drops down into the water, and you can launch the tender that way. Right, let's head to the Flybridge. If you've got clown feet like me, these treads are a little bit short, but there's very good handholds, so it's easy enough to pull yourself up here to the top deck, where we have far more than just another driving position. You could have this boat without the Flybridge and have a sunroof, and if you have a cruising area where there's air draft restrictions, that might be quite good. Otherwise, I think this is such a valuable extra living space. You've got your 2 helm seats. You've also got another really useful bit of L-shaped seating over there where people can sit on passage and keep those at the helm company. And then if we move aft, look at this space. It's great. Nice wrap of seating, another lovely table that, like the one downstairs, opens up if you want to dine up here, and then you've got your bar as well, and this is well positioned. I like how they've integrated it into the radar mast. Of course, the radar is set nice and high, it's got a really clear view, it's not buzzing the back of your head, and this is just a really nice central area that you can grab onto as you're moving around the boat. And then under here, yeah, we've got our grill, we've got our sink, there's a fridge underneath as well, so you can easily prepare food for guests while they're up here. Good life raft storage down here as well, dedicated spot for that, which is always very nice to see. It's a really good usable space. Let's head inside now, because this boat is like a cream egg. Hard on the outside, soft and luxurious on the inside. Yes, in here is where the Cockwells effect is most obvious. Hardys of old would have been very traditional inside, lots of teak, lots of heavy material. This is incredibly modern, lovely combination of dark and light woods, luxurious soft carpet, and all the mod cons as well, as we're about to find out. Good headroom in here, and nice use of indirect lighting. You've got your spots as well, but nice to see some subtle indirect lighting running through the boat as well. Look at the size of this table as well, and a really good amount of seating around it. And notice there are plug sockets everywhere as well, so people can charge devices no matter where they're sitting, and repeater for light switches as well. And that is opposite this lovely dresser all the way this side, and it's got the TV fitted inside it. Little storage area here, and there's some nice storage solutions. Big drawer for your man drawer for chucking all your odds and ends in. And then this is really nice, all bespoke Cockwells joinery for holding glasses, plates, crockery, that sort of thing, all there in one place. And that is very neatly placed, very close to the galley. And we've talked about how well the galley works out at sea, and it's true. We've spent a lot of time, someone just wedged in here, holding a cup of coffee, talking to the helm. You've got a fantastic all-round view from here. And as I said, out at sea, you can be just away from the helm, but still be in control and yeah, use the galley as you would want to. Big amount of storage over on this side. This has got a dishwasher underneath, twin sink here, and you've got cooking over on this side with good extraction overhead too. The only complaint, as I said at the helm, I have is that you are blocked in because of this section here. I would be tempted to lose this. I know there's quite good storage in here. You know, you've got good storage racks in there, but I'd be tempted to find somewhere else to put that stuff and leave a break here so that you can walk all the way around the helm station rather than everyone having to come out the same way. This is a cool touch though. Touch of a button, what looks like redundant space isn't. It is a nice pop-up pantry, and look how fast that is as well. Usually they take an age to go up and down. That's a really clever use of space. And on the opposite side is where you find cooling. Separate fridge and freezer, nice big fridge above, and then with these good catches you've got the freezer underneath. So a decent amount of cooling space. And up to the helm, which we've covered in pretty good detail. I'll point out again, you have side doors on both sides, which is always very nice to see. Right, let's head downstairs and have a look at the cabins. As we head down to the lower deck, you find a compartment here for the washer dryer. And then right down, we are on a boat that's got the 3 cabin arrangement, and that means you get a single cabin here, but that does convert into a double. That berth slides, so you can make it into a double bed if you prefer. Over here on the port side is the day head. That is also the bathroom that these 2 cabins share, meaning that through this door, we have the VIP. This is very nicely finished space. The detail is lovely as the lighting sort of comes down this staircase and joins with the bed head there. You've got heating controls and switches for lights, reading lights and plugs at the top of the bed as well. Each occupant has got a bedside table, and natural light's pretty good as well. A couple of big portholes behind me. Now, the other option is you have 2 cabins on board this boat. So you get all of this width as one big cabin with a split shower and toilet room. And this would probably become your master cabin, whereas on the 3 cabin version we're on, the master cabin is forward. And this is a really lovely space. You can get a sense of the headroom in here, and although the portholes aren't huge, there's good levels of natural light. It helps that we've got a big skylight as well. It looks a bit funny at first glance that the portholes are tilted, but of course they're just running in line with the deck. It would look odd if they were sort of even from this angle inside the cabin. You've got a bureau over there with a little stool, which is nice. Storage level's very good, dotted around here at eye level, and a hanging wardrobe here on the port side. And the other thing they've done is put the shower room here and the toilet over on that side, so 2 people can use the bathroom facilities at the same time. Works really nicely. Right, before we head into Poole, let's stick our heads in the engine room. Engine room access then. This hatch here in the saloon lifts up, the table tilts up as well, so you can move it right back. And then you've got this stairway down here between the engines. It's all boarded off, it's not checker plate, so it's quite kind on the feet and the knees. Now, we've already discussed how big these engines are for this boat. They are big blocks, so inevitably it does feel a bit cramped down here because of that. That said, you can still by eye check everything really easily. You've got your strainers right here, you've got the fuel filters right here on this bulkhead behind me, and they've got clear bowls in them, so you can by eye again see if there's any issues with the fuel. The generator's tucked right down in that corner. It's a little bit tricky to get to, but it's very well lit down here, and look at the insulation. This is why it's so quiet. Not only can you know, the engines are well contained, but you can barely hear the generator as well, which is very important when you're an anchor, when you're away from shore power. You'll probably be running that a lot, so the fact that that's kept nice and quiet is really important. Right, let's get them fired up and head back into Poole. We're coming into Poole now, and before we left Stirling, we did a little lap past Old Harry, and with the tide really pouring around it, we did find some waves. They weren't enormous, but it did confirm my suspicion that this thing goes through the swells like a battleship. It still wasn't an enormous test, but it just gives you a flavour of how it will feel if the seas are more challenging than they have been today. And we had those waves behind us coming down the main channel, and you do get that. It's relatively typical of a semi-displacement hull, especially with a quartering swell. It does just roll a little bit off the keel, but if you don't overcorrect, you'll find that the boat will just sort itself out. It's a moment to trust the hull. It will dig in and it will keep you on the straight and narrow. There's a temptation to sort of overcorrect with the wheel. That's when it becomes uncomfortable. Of course, you've lost a lot of the help of the seakeeper when you're up at those speeds, so you are down to the natural dynamic stability of the hull at that point. It's very good. It's just one of those things that you have to bear in mind when you're in a quartering sea on a boat like this. The other thing I would mention is I've talked about how good the view is here. We are forward, we sit high, so the view forward and immediately around is great, but looking behind you is a bit tough because you are high and the doors are a little bit lower than your eye level. So if you want to look behind you to do a turn, you're either going to be talking to your crew and asking for them to poke their head out the side window, or you can do it yourself, pop down to the side door, have a look before you make a hard turn. Anyway, we're heading into the marina now, Salter's Marina, one of the tightest and notoriously difficult to manoeuvre big boats around, so we're going to put all this lovely twin disc kit through a proper test. Okay, here's the smart thing about this twin disc setup. You pull it back into neutral, and you can of course use it in the traditional way. You can use both throttles to manoeuvre the boat at slow speed, and you've got separate bow and stern thrusters over here, so you can do that in the way you've always done. But ahead of that we have the joystick, which you activate as so. Comes into life, and then everything is being done through this joystick. And that will either use the thrusters if it only needs that much propulsion, or if you've got the wind or the tide on the beam and it needs a bit more oomph, it will bring the engines in. So if I just go to push it, I want it to move sideways, push the stick sideways, You can hear the thrusters. Engines are coming in a little bit as well. So that's to move sideways, and if you want to twist, again, it will use the bow and stern thrusters, depending which way you want to go. And it will also bring in the engines to give you a bit more grunt. And what's really nice about this is it's instantaneous. Often with these systems, especially shaft drive and thruster systems that have been adapted for joystick, there's a delay and it feels clunky and you just think, oh, I'm just going to go back to the throttles. I don't really feel like I need to do that with this system. It is so slick and it's very smooth as well. It's not jerky in and out of gear. I'm just pushing us forward on the joystick now. I can bring us to a stop, pulling it into reverse. And when you twist, it is straight away. That bow thruster is so powerful and effective that it genuinely brings the joystick into play. I think even if you're used to these twin throttles and the thruster arrangement, you will find yourself using the joystick quite quickly. But let's head inside and see how effective it is on the way in. The other thing you can do is, right, we're outside the marina now, and there's a couple of us, but if you were short-handed and you wanted to hold the boat steady, you can push this button here, activate, and then much like the Volvo DPS system, we discussed this earlier up on the Flybridge, but this is it in action. It will now use GPS to hold the boat dead in this spot. So you can hear the engine just building up revs to keep it into place. It will bring the thrusters in if it needs to. But now, theoretically, I can leave the helm and go and help Dave do the lines. Even a short passage like this one offers such a great insight into the day-to-day workings of a boat. I learned that the 50DS is safe to move around on, easy to crew, and that its solid ride and smooth performance mean you can use the onboard amenities on passage. Engine room access could be better, and some tweaks to the galley would improve the flow, but with the 50DS, Cockwells has created a pocket battleship that is bang up to date. Well, our time with the 50DS has come to an end, and it reminds me of a converted Victorian terraced house. On the outside, it's traditional and solid and purposeful, but on the inside, it's modern and bright. It's got an open plan kitchen and all of the modern technology that you would expect. If you bought a Hardy back in the day, you would concede that yes, you've got a go anywhere boat, but you have to concede on style. Now Cockwells have got hold of it. That is no longer the case. And that is a pretty punchy combination, even in the rain. Thanks very much for watching that Sea Trial and review. I hope you enjoyed it. Give the video a like if you did, and let us know in the comments below what you think of the Hardy 50. If you like this style of boat, we've got a test of the Targa 46 on the channel. I'll put a link to that up there. More Sea Trials for you down here. And if you would like to subscribe to the YachtBuyer channel, which we hope you do, you can do that by tapping up here. Thanks for watching.